Every day, this old man took out his iron and meticulously ironed the bedsheet that had been with him for thousands of years. Unexpectedly, the young man next to him casually used it to wipe the knife. So the old man got angry and directly stabbed the young man's palm with the knife. The young man screamed miserably, but strangely, the wound on his hand healed quickly. It turned out that this was the regenerative ability of vampires. The young man was originally an ordinary person, but an unexpected incident turned him into a real vampire. That day, a small truck accidentally hit the young man who was crossing the street. The car behind couldn't react in time and crashed into the back of the truck. The driver of the truck was thrown forward and fell on top of the young man. Everyone around saw the two people lying in a pool of blood and thought that two of them wouldn't survive. At this moment, the old man suddenly moved. He twisted his dislocated neck and then stood up and left. But at this moment, the young man also stood up, to the astonishment of everyone around, and then he also staggered away. Now the old man's face was full of helplessness. He thought that his blood must have flowed into the young man's mouth, so he hurriedly chased after the young man. The two accident victims just left the scene. Passers-by saw the young man's face covered in blood and wanted to call the police, but were stopped by the old man. He said that they were playing street disguise. It was obvious that the old man wanted to hide something. The old man followed the young man to a dormitory building and knew that he was a university student. Under the worried inquiries of his roommate, the young man discovered that he had been hit by a car without a single wound on his body. Not only that, he also discovered that his hearing had increased greatly and his strength had exploded even more violently. Just as he was confused, the old man suddenly appeared behind him. The old man asked the young man if he felt strange, like he had supernatural powers. The young man did not understand what the old man was saying. The old man said that you had drunk my blood. Now you had become a different species like me. The old man asked again. Surely the young man was thirsty for fresh blood now. The young man was very confused when he heard these words. It turned out that old man Svetoslav was a vampire. Don't think that this identity sounds a bit scary. In fact, he was a very gentle person. When the lonely old woman's water was cut off, Svetoslav came to help the old woman carry water. Hearing the reminder of the cleaner, he also tried not to cause any more trouble for people. Although Svetoslav was very tired, Svetoslav lived with two other vampires. Although they were not relatives, both of them had the old man's blood flowing through them. Jean was a military doctor in the 18th century. Because of fear on the battlefield, Jean casually opened fire. As a result, Svetoslav accidentally killed Jean, so Svetoslav took his blood and transformed the dying Jean into a vampire. The other person was Anna, a police officer from the Soviet era. During the pursuit of criminals, she took the bullet for Svetoslav. He couldn't bear to see such a good child die early, so he also let Anna drink his blood. Just like Svetoslav could fly, these two people also had their own special abilities. Anna could read other people's thoughts by physical contact. Dr. John could obtain information about the other person's body through blood. This time, the university student accidentally became a vampire. It was truly a generation after a century. After learning the truth, the young man was not panicked at all, but was extremely excited. He curiously asked the old man about the legend of vampires. Except for blood-sucking and immortality, everything else was inferred by humans. Moreover, they never kill people. Normally, they rely on doctors to draw blood. As a young and energetic person, Evgeny quickly adapted to the life of a vampire, but he still could not find his special ability. In order to prove himself, Evgeny went to the suburbs alone to subdue some robbers and then drew some blood as a reward. But the next day, the police station received a report that two people died in the forest due to excessive blood loss. Anna, a police officer, quickly rushed to the scene. She knew at a glance that it was caused by vampires. Moreover, she also discovered Evgeny's belongings that had fallen nearby. Evgeny was at home with Svetoslav, celebrating his successful hunt. Suddenly, Anna stormed in angrily. She asked Evgeny if he had killed someone in the forest. Evgeny said that he was following the rules. He only drew a little blood from each person. Before leaving, he arranged for them to rest under a tree. He even deliberately checked the breathing of the three of them. Hearing he said that have three people, Anna realized something was wrong. It was obvious that there were only two corpses at the scene, so Anna decided to go find the only survivor. At this time, the guard also ran over. 100 years ago, Svetoslav had signed a contract with the guard. Once a vampire killed someone, they would be caught and executed. Svetoslav said that he would not make this mistake. The guard warned that if she found out, Svetoslav would have to hand over two people to pay for their lives. Svetoslav immediately assured the guard that he would definitely find the culprit quickly. As the most elite police officer, Anna could have received the information first, but this time, the capital had to send a senior detective, so all the case documents were in his hands. Fortunately, there was still Dr. Jean in the family. He accidentally drank the blood that Evgeny brought back. Jean immediately recognized that this was the blood of one of his patients. It turned out that yesterday, a man who was about to die was brought to the hospital, and he was also the only survivor of the other three. Although he was seriously injured at that time, the doctor still saved him at the critical moment. After receiving the news, Anna immediately rushed to the hospital. Unexpectedly, the man had climbed out the window and escaped. Leaving the hospital with such a serious injury, this person either had something to hide or was in a hurry to leave this world. At this time, someone saw him and said that the direction the man was running away was towards the school. This reminded Dr. Jean of his ex-wife, who was a teacher. Although she was also a member of the family, she had always lived alone since her divorce from Jean. The long period of no contact made Jean suspicious of her food supply. However, when confronted by Jean, Olga said that she was dating her new boyfriend on the night of the incident. Sviatoslav was at a dead end, so he decided to take the documents that the detective had. He only needed to secretly plug the USB into Detective Ivan's computer so that Evgeny at home could copy all the documents. Anna, on the pretext of welcoming Ivan, asked him out. Then she read his thoughts through contact. But at this moment, Ivan only had Anna's beauty in his mind. He thought that Anna was so beautiful today. She took the initiative to shake his hand. Her hand was so soft, so Anna just pretended to accidentally touch him. Unexpectedly, Ivan directly grabbed Anna's hand. This made her even more embarrassed. Ivan thought that Anna was taking the initiative, so he directly offered to take Anna to his room. Unexpectedly, she cruelly rejected him. In the end, Ivan had no choice but to leave. But at this moment, Anna suddenly remembered that Sviatoslav was still in Ivan's room. Hearing the footsteps outside getting closer, Sviatoslav had no choice but to choose the only way out. He flew out the window, but because he was too heavy, he fell to the ground. Although he was fine, it was enough to scare passersby. But the bad thing was that not only could they not copy the documents, Ivan's tracking program also found Evgeny's IP address. But fortunately, no one in the family normally went online. Evgeny used the Wi-Fi of the bar across the street. Not only did Ivan not ask for any useful clues, but Anna was also teased by a thug in the bar. Ivan said nothing and rushed forward. He punched the thug in the face. As for him, someone smashed a bottle of wine on his back. But in Anna's eyes, these burly men were nothing. Seeing that Ivan was currently seriously injured, she took him back to Dr. Jean. Sviatoslav wondered why she brought a human back. Anna said that he had helped her. This was the first time in 70 years that someone had fought because of her. But at this moment, the guard who guarded Irina came to the scene again. She found Ivan lying on the table. She thought that these people were enjoying dinner. Sviatoslav quickly explained the whole story, but Irina didn't care why they saved him. Today, she wanted to take Evgeny, the biggest suspect, away from here. Sviatoslav said that Evgeny was still a child. Moreover, there was no evidence to prove that he was the culprit. But if Irina couldn't take Evgeny away, someone had to replace him. Faced with Irina's arrogance, Sviatoslav couldn't stand it anymore, so he turned into a vampire and scolded Irina. But even so, Sviatoslav was angry and still spoke to Irina with affection. After all, he was the one who watched Irina grow up, and he had saved her life with his own hands back then. Now, he just needed Irina to extend the time for him a little. He would definitely find the real culprit. If the real culprit was one of them, he would personally deal with that person. Irina gave Sviatoslav a week. Although Irina had left, Sviatoslav had not transformed for decades, so being suddenly tortured like this seemed unbearable. But Sviatoslav's efforts were soon rewarded. Early the next morning, Olga provided an important clue. The runaway man had been Olga's student and often wandered around the garage near the university. Coincidentally, Ivan had just woken up when he heard this news. But Ivan's wound attracted Olga, who couldn't help but come and sniff him. Fortunately, Sviatoslav told Olga to leave before it was too late. Sviatoslav then informed Anna immediately. But when she arrived at the scene, she saw Ivan squatting next to a corpse with vampire fangs exposed. Ivan told Anna not to be nervous. It turned out that this was a model Ivan made based on the wounds on the corpse. He suspected that these cases were not caused by ordinary people. Anna looked at the bite mark on the victim's arm and knew that she could not bring the corpse to the police station. Otherwise, it would bring new danger to her family. So she pretended to ask Ivan to help her make a phone call. Then she exposed her fangs and went to bite him. Besides loving his daughter, Sviatoslav's most precious things were old things that had been with him for many years. Even if he had lived for over 1,000 years, it was no exception. Every day, Sviatoslav took out an iron and meticulously ironed the bed sheet that had been with him for thousands of years, while Evgeny casually used it to wipe the knife. Sviatoslav was angry and directly used the knife to teach him a lesson. Evgeny was stabbed and screamed miserably, but he found that the wound on his arm had healed quickly. It turned out that this was the regenerative ability of vampires. As an experienced person, Sviatoslav was already familiar with this. Before going out, he asked Evgeny to help him iron the bed sheet, but as a newly transformed vampire, Evgeny was extremely curious about himself, so he started to do reckless things to his body. But what he didn't know was that recovering to the original state required a huge amount of energy. Not long after, Evgeny fell into a state of blood loss. He was urged by hunger to sit on a bus full of passengers. At this moment, for him, the thing supporting the heads of each person in this room was not a neck, but delicious food waiting to be gnawed. But thinking about the rules Sviatoslav had set up, he had to hold back and smell the scent. Evgeny barely managed to get back to the front door, but at this point, he no longer had the strength to stand up. Fortunately, when Sviatoslav returned, he happened to see this scene. Sviatoslav realized at a glance that Evgeny had harmed himself and ended up like this. So Sviatoslav immediately helped Evgeny into the house and drank some blood, which might be fine. This was the right time to teach Evgeny a lesson he would never forget. But Sviatoslav Svetoslav soon softened and hid his snacks for Evgeny to eat. Anyway, what he was most worried about right now was the recent murder case. There were many clues that proved that it was done by a vampire. At the scene of the most recent murder, there were also vampire teeth marks on the body of victim. As both a member of Svetoslav's family and a police officer, Anna absolutely could not reveal the existence of a vampire. She bit Ivan's neck, causing him to lose his memory. When Ivan woke up again, Anna pretended to be late. She said that Ivan might have suffered a head injury and passed out outside the door. The crime scene was also cleaned up by Anna. To avoid getting her family involved, Anna needed to find the murderer before the police. She secretly handed the body over to Jean. After all, the hospital was the most suitable place to hide the body. However, when Anna returned home, she saw Evgeny find his limits. Facing Evgeny, who only knew how to sabotage all day, Anna lost her patience. Taking advantage of the time when Ivan went to the toilet, she fiercely taught Evgeny a lesson. Ivan discovered a new clue through the previous case. He found a button from the previous century at the crime scene. Anna found it very familiar. The whole family compared and confirmed that the button came from another member of their family, Olga, Jean's ex-wife. The three of them immediately went to Olga's place, but she said that some of her clothes had been donated to the museum a long time ago, and some were donated to her drama club. However, what the three of them did not expect was that the survivor of the first case appeared at Olga's residence. His name was Sergei, the new boyfriend Olga had mentioned. Seeing Sergei's dazed eyes and panicked face, it was obvious that he had been sucked blood and had not yet recovered. At this time, John noticed that the wound on his body from before had completely disappeared. This was a phenomenon that Jean could not explain, so Jean immediately drew a tube of Sergei's blood to study. While everyone was discussing how to deal with him, Ivan also sent someone to find him. It turned out that through Sergei's phone log, Ivan found Olga's address. As the most important suspect in the case, Sergei was naturally taken to the police station. According to Sergei's description, he and his teammates were ambushed at night. When he woke up, two of his teammates had already died. At this time, a man in black was chasing and killing from behind, scaring Sergei so much that he drove away in fear. When he woke up again, he was in the hospital. Sergei thought he was safe, but he heard the voice of the man in black outside the door. So Sergei immediately escaped through the window. He went to the garage he rented with his friend. Sergei changed his clothes and went to find Olga, but he couldn't remember why his body healed so quickly. It seemed that the body Anna found in the warehouse was Sergei's roommate, who was accidentally killed by the murderer, and the police must have also investigated his whereabouts. So Anna immediately called Jean and told him to think of a way to move the body out of the small town and arrange the cause of this person's death without arousing suspicion. Jean didn't know how to drive, so he went to Olga for help. Although the two were divorced, Olga originally wanted to be immortal, and Jean helped her transform into a vampire. Olga drove to the back door of the hospital at the appointed time. Her luxury cars attracted a security guard. While he was praising Olga's car, he saw Jean preparing to put a corpse in the car. Suddenly, a luxury car stopped at the back door of the hospital. The guard eagerly walked over. He was praising the owner's car for being so luxurious, but he saw Jean preparing to put the corpse in the trunk. Logically, it was the case that a hospital car was used to transport a corpse. Jean hesitated and did not finish his sentence. He also did not get any approval documents from the hospital. The guard felt more and more that something was wrong. At this moment, Olga leisurely walked down. She asked the guard if anyone had said that his eyes were beautiful. Then Olga stared into the guard's eyes and said that what he had seen just now was not a corpse but a patient of Dr. Jean's. They had to take the patient home because the patient was discharged today. Just like that, the guard was fascinated by Olga's special charm ability. The guard not only helped Jean carry the body to the car, but also did not forget to bless the body before leaving. Because of the vampire's teeth marks on the body, and the two of them were members of the vampire clan. Therefore, to avoid bringing disaster upon themselves, even though they had not yet found the culprit, they needed to find a normal cause of death for the body. When passing the bridge outside the city, Olga could not help but be lost in memories. In the past, this place was still a small lake carrying the romance of her and Jean. At this time, Olga wanted to hold Jean's hand, but he no longer had feelings for her. Olga angrily moved the body in the trunk of the car. Despite Jean's objection, Olga threw the body down the bridge. Immediately after, the body was crushed by a passing car, leaving only a trail of blood on the road. In order to control the trend of the murder case, Anna asked John to give a warning to the case commander Ivan. Ivan's head wound could heal at any time, so he had to stay with them for a few days. They took the opportunity to observe the condition of his wound, but when Ivan entered, they discovered that his previous life as a human was so complicated. The family did not want him to see through their flaws, so they prepared a sumptuous breakfast. Even though vampires who eat human food will get diarrhea, they still had to pretend to do so. Ivan went to the toilet and mistakenly entered Svetoslav's room. As a result, he saw a coffin on the ground. Svetoslav quickly said that this was his lover's coffin, given to him by his girlfriend's family during their previous love affair. As a result, his lover was dead, but he was not. After Ivan found the toilet, he discovered that there was no paper in it. Svetoslav was helpless and had to give Ivan a Japanese nuclear power plant plant newspaper. It turned out that vampires did not eat rice, so of course they did not go to the toilet. Moreover, Sviatoslav's fingernails were so big that he couldn't even pull out the toilet paper when he went to the toilet. To make the house look like a human's house, Sviatoslav was about to go buy some supplies, but he accidentally heard some rumors that recently there seemed to be some wild animals appearing in the suburbs. Many farmers' livestock had met with disasters. Even the blood in the livestock's bodies had been sucked out. Sviatoslav knew that this was not as simple as it seemed, so he immediately went to the suburbs to investigate. As a result, he discovered some extremely unusual households. Not only were there some animal specimens kept on the walls, but there were also many pictures of vampires. Sviatoslav informed Anna of this news immediately. Ivan and Anna immediately went to the scene. Seeing the news about vampires all over the walls made an ordinary person like Ivan suddenly feel scared. At this time, Anna discovered that there was also a picture of Sviatoslav on the wall. She took advantage of the moment when Ivan wasn't paying attention and quickly hid it. Suddenly, at this moment, there was the sound of a car engine outside. The people who returned were a boy named Nikita and an old man with a paraplegia named Pharaoh. Nikita explained that the news on the wall was collected by his grandfather. Pharaoh was very interested in vampires, but at this moment, Pharaoh said that this news was all evidence. Pharaoh confirmed that there were vampires in this world. Moreover, they lived alongside humans. But years ago, he tried to tell everyone about this, but no one wanted to believe it. Pharaoh was even sent to a mental hospital by the government. After saying this, he wanted to give an important document to Ivan. But at this moment, Pharaoh called his dead wife. Ivan realized that Pharaoh had Alzheimer's disease, but Anna knew clearly that what he said was the truth. After returning home, Anna told Sviatoslav about this. Sviatoslav immediately felt angry. Sviatoslav went to find Irina immediately. Sviatoslav questioned her why she sent a normal person to a mental hospital. Moreover, she locked him up for decades. This was unfair to Pharaoh. However, Irina did not think so. In order to maintain normal social order, they needed to act as a check and balance between humans and vampires. When necessary, they would even apply coercive measures. If it were Sviatoslav, what could he do? Speaking of this, Irina suddenly changed the subject. She said that regardless of whether the murderer was from Sviatoslav's family or not, she could stop pursuing the case. They would no longer have to live a life of fear. But before that, Sviatoslav had to help Irina with one thing: turn her into a vampire. The most painful thing in the human world is to clearly know about the existence of special creatures in this world, but not be able to tell others. Even when you die, you have to take this secret to your coffin. Irina has been the guardian of the balance between humans and vampires for generations. She has been a guardian for a century, but has never received any response from humans or vampires. Now she has discovered that she has cancer. At a dead end, she hopes that the vampire Sviatoslav can help her transform into a vampire. Although Sviatoslav also wants to help Irina, he also has a past that he cannot bear to remember. In the previous century, there was a vampire who sucked all the blood from the entire village. Sviatoslav originally wanted to deal with him according to the law, but was stopped by the guardian. It was because the culprit was Sviatoslav's younger brother. In the end, Sviatoslav broke the law that they protected. So for Sviatoslav, he could not allow his own kind to become law enforcers. Irina was a good person, but she had no way to guarantee that she would be a good vampire. The clues in the recent murders were puzzling. Detective Ivan occasionally received a stack of documents containing some comments and pictures related to vampires. Among them were Sviatoslav and Evgeny. Ivan immediately went to find Evgeny, but he signaled that he was live streaming to sell goods. The product was a vampire's peripheral costume. After saying that, he also showed Ivan his forum. Coincidentally, at this time, a blogger named Lord of Darkness posted an article saying that the last murder was believed to be committed by a vampire. He also proudly told many details of the case. This forced Ivan to suspect that the other party was a madman with paranoid thoughts about vampires. After killing people, he posted articles online for pleasure. Ivan asked Evgeny to deliberately reveal to the other party that one of the victims, Sergei, was not dead. Moreover, he would participate in the blood-sucking party that was held recently. On the other side, Evgeny discovered that Sergei was a human, yet his wound could heal so quickly in such a short time. The only explanation was that he cut his hand while helping Sviatoslav remove the glass shards. The vampire's blood fell on his wound, but through this experiment, Evgeny learned that his blood was not enough to heal a human. Before the incident, Sergei must have touched some illegal substance. If it was possible to combine the vampire's blood with the illegal substance, perhaps Jean could research a powerful cure. Sviatoslav learned of this and immediately told John to interrogate Sergei, because once Jean's research was successful, it could help cure Irina's cancer. From then on, she gave up the idea of becoming a vampire. Through Sergei's testimony, Sviatoslav quickly went online to contact the person selling the illegal substance and arranged to make a deal at Evgeny's vampire party. On the day of the party, Ivan and his colleagues had long prepared and were waiting inside. According to the plan, Evgeny gave away peripherals to 3 lucky people in the form of a lottery. Among them was a blogger named Lord of Darkness. When Evgeny called out the name Lord of Darkness, but no one answered for a long time, they started asking Sergei to tell everyone his own experience of how to survive a vampire attack. This stimulated manipulated Lord of Darkness. At the same time, Svetoslav and Jean successfully completed the transaction with the seller. When they were about to leave, they were caught red-handed by the anti-drug police during a surprise check. At this time, Sergei saw Evgeny dressed as a vampire, which reminded him of the incident that happened on the night of his attack. In a moment, his spirit began to awaken, and he saw that everyone around him was a vampire. Taking advantage of the chaos caused by the police raid, Sergei also ran out of the house with the crowd. When Evgeny searched for his figure and chased after him, Evgeny saw that he had been stabbed in the chest. And this scene was witnessed by the police chasing after Evgeny. Looking at the blood on Evgeny's hands, he was afraid that this would be a misunderstanding that was difficult to explain. Unexpectedly, the party not only failed to catch the culprit, but also caused Svetoslav's group to be arrested and taken to the police station. In order to escape from the police station, when making a record, Svetoslav pretended to have a relapse of his old illness. Seeing Svetoslav's dying appearance, the leader was worried that Svetoslav would really die here and cause more trouble for him. Moreover, Svetoslav's age did not match that of a drug addict, so the leader told the police to release Svetoslav and the doctor. Although the two were no longer dangerous, Evgeny, who had appeared at the crime scene, was in big trouble. Not only was he detained by the police, he was also taken for a blood test. How could a vampire's blood be normal? Evgeny was only 20 years old, but his blood was like that of a 60-year-old. In order to prevent Evgeny from being exposed as a teacher, Olga immediately went to the hospital. She used her own mind control ability to control the nurse and changed Evgeny's blood sample. Compared to the three Svetoslavs who were in trouble, Anna was definitely considered to have good news. They had found out that Nikita, who had provided the clue before, was not a student but an intern at the hospital, so this person knew how to use a tube to draw blood from the victim. Therefore, Anna and police officer Ivan went to the hospital together. When the two of them asked for Nikita's room, Nikita happened to see Anna and Ivan in the hallway, so he quickly took off his name tag, put on a mask, and calmly walked past the two. But at this moment, Anna suddenly felt something was wrong. She immediately asked the doctor next to her. Knowing that all interns had to wear name tags, Nikita knew that he had been exposed and quickly ran away, even pressing the fire alarm on the way to create chaos. Finally, thanks to his familiarity with the hospital's terrain, he was able to distract Anna and Ivan. Anna's hand was cut by glass during the chase, but because she was a vampire, the wound quickly healed. Fortunately, she immediately put a band-aid on the wound so that Ivan wouldn't notice anything unusual. The two people investigated Nikita's car, which not only had many pipes but also a long spiked bucket. This explained why the victim's body had wounds that looked like they had been bitten by a vampire. Ivan immediately asked the police to issue a wanted notice and went to Nikita's grandfather's house to investigate the clues. But they found that in Pharaoh's eyes, Nikita was still a filial grandson. So when he heard the police radio saying they wanted to arrest his grandson, he was so angry that he had a heart attack and collapsed on the spot. Anna and Ivan immediately took Pharaoh to the hospital. At this time, at the hospital, Dr. Jean was researching a special medicine that finally had a breakthrough. It turned out that the kind-hearted Svetoslav knew that Irina had cancer, so he spent a lot of effort to create a banned drug. Then it was used in conjunction with vampire blood. At this time, Dr. Jean had just successfully researched a medicine that could cause cells to regenerate strongly, but because the raw materials were limited, only 2 doses could be made. Sergei, who was seriously injured and in a coma, was injected with 1 dose. Sure enough, Sergei's body parameters began to return to normal, so Dr. Jean immediately called Svetoslav and told him to notify Irina to come for treatment. After Irina received the good news from Svetoslav, she was extremely happy, but unexpectedly, Olga suddenly ran to find Dr. Jean. She said that after Sergei was injected with the medicine, there were abnormal signs. Dr. Jean immediately called Svetoslav and told him to cancel the appointment with Irina. However, this made Svetoslav feel awkward. After Dr. Jean asked, he discovered that the assistant followed the previous procedure to perform hemodialysis on Sergei. This meant that the previously injected medicine was completely useless. Although the remaining dose was for Irina, Dr. Jean seemed determined to find a way to help Olga cure Sergei. On the other side, Svetoslav was looking for a reason to imply that the medicine research had failed. At this time, Dr. Jean called again and said that it was no problem. After listening, Svetoslav was extremely happy. But when he arrived at the hospital, he saw that Nikita's grandfather was about to die. Svetoslav knew that this person had been locked up in a mental hospital for more than 10 years because of vampires and was now about to die tragically. So Svetoslav kindly decided to give the last dose of medicine to Pharaoh. Pharaoh's heartbeat returned. Svetoslav could only tell Irina that the medicine had run out. Irina couldn't stand others giving her hope and then making her despair. Svetoslav admitted that he was wrong, but he didn't lie to her because someone needed it more than her. On the other side, Nikita thought that his grandfather had passed away, so he went crazy. Nikita intentionally appeared in Ivan's sight and then lured Ivan to the trap he had set. When Anna ran over, Ivan was knocked unconscious. Under pressure from the police, Nikita claimed to be a vampire who was not afraid of death. At this time, Anna asked the police to distract Nikita while she used the speed of a vampire to run into the building. In the blink of an eye, when Nikita Nikita pushed Ivan down the stairs. Anna ran over in time and pulled them to the ground. Finally, the culprit was caught. Evgeny was also released. The whole family finally breathed a sigh of relief. Tonight, Anna couldn't control herself anymore. She hugged Ivan and kissed him passionately. After going through recent events, the two of them had developed feelings for each other, but when their feelings were surging, her excited body revealed Anna's vampire face. Ivan was terrified when he saw this. Anna knew that Ivan was a good person, so she didn't intend to hide her true identity anymore. So she told him about her and her family. Although they were all vampires because of the law and supervision, their whole family was no different from ordinary people. At this time, Ivan asked Anna how long she had been a vampire. Anna answered 70 years. This shocked Ivan greatly. It wasn't until a few days later that Ivan gradually accepted this truth. First, they had to quickly interrogate Nikita to investigate the truth behind the case. At this time, Nikita still claimed to be a vampire. He said that because he was influenced by his grandfather, he believed that vampires really existed since he was young. He started drinking animal blood when he was 12 years old. After growing up, the first time he tasted human blood was in the hospital. As for the murder in the woods, it was because he was robbed by those two. He picked up a wooden plank with nails and fought back, leaving a wound that looked like a tooth mark. He also drained the other person's blood, intending to take it home to drink. At this time, Irina came to see Anna. Irina wanted to confirm whether Nikita was a vampire or not. Unexpectedly, Nikita revealed that there was another murderer. Next, he took out Evgeny's photo. Irina immediately determined that Evgeny was guilty upon seeing it and prepared to arrest him. After Irina left, Anna immediately called Svetoslav. When Irina led people to Svetoslav's apartment, she found out that Evgeny was not home. Svetoslav looked at Irina coldly. He assured her that if Evgeny was really the murderer, he would definitely not cover it up. That night, Evgeny had just returned home when Svetoslav dragged him out for a walk. They went to an ancient and dark place. Irina was waiting there. Evgeny was shocked by the electric shock. Evgeny asked Svetoslav why you betrayed me. Svetoslav told Irina not to shock Evgeny anymore. Evgeny shouted that he didn't kill anyone. He always lived by the law. But Irina's group just ignored him when they heard it. When Svetoslav took his stick, and Evgeny broke the iron chain and jumped out the window and escaped right in front of everyone. Irina was angry and immediately sent someone to chase after him. Irina asked Svetoslav why he didn't chase after Evgeny, but he said that letting Evgeny escape was their fault and had nothing to do with him. Unexpectedly, Irina thought Evgeny would return home, so she told Svetoslav to go back there and wait, because Evgeny had already considered Svetoslav an enemy. At the police station, Nikita continued to confess that the one chasing Sergei was him. The one who killed Sergei's roommate in the garage was also him. Ivan suddenly got a headache when he heard about Gara. The image of that corpse kept flashing through Ivan's mind. Seeing that, Anna interrupted the interrogation and told Ivan directly that she had bitten him, which was why he had forgotten the scene that day. When Ivan questioned Nikita again, he found the same tooth marks on Nikita's neck as his, so he immediately went to find Svetoslav's family. Ivan asked if they had ever bitten Nikita. After receiving a negative answer, Ivan began to speculate. If no one had bitten him, it meant that there were other vampires here. Moreover, this person was the mastermind. Nikita was just a tool to provide blood for that person. Svetoslav couldn't think of anyone else living who didn't obey the vampire's laws, so he decided to investigate the vampire's lineage. But after screening and examining for a while, they still couldn't find any suspicious vampires. On the other side, Evgeny, who was wondering where to go, was stopped by a stranger. The man drank a bottle of fresh blood first and then gave it to Evgeny. It turned out that this man was the real mastermind behind the scenes. Not long ago, two men dug up an axe under a large rock, but when they continued digging, they were frightened. There was also a dried corpse under the axe. The two of them thought they had dug up a 1,000-year-old mummy and planned to sell it for a large sum of money. But on the way back, one of them was injured by the axe, and this drop of blood from him immediately awakened the vampire Keeleen, who had been sleeping for hundreds of years. The two men thus became Keeleen's first meal after awakening. Although Keeleen had regained his human appearance, he felt very unfamiliar with the current world. It was not until he met Nikita on a hunt that he said that not only was there a guide, humans did not have to worry about food. Keeleen also told Evgeny that he had a grudge against Svetoslav several hundred years ago. When Keeleen woke up, he observed Svetoslav's family for a long time. As soon as Svetoslav was mentioned, Evgeny was extremely angry. Unexpectedly, Svetoslav was exactly like the others. Svetoslav did not trust Evgeny and even wanted to kill Evgeny with his own hands. And Evgeny's hatred for Svetoslav was exactly what Keeleen wanted, because it was Keeleen who let Nikita frame Evgeny. Only then would Evgeny be willing to become Keeleen's assistant. What Keeleen wanted to do now was to bring out Evgeny's special ability. Evgeny was extremely happy after knowing his ability. Immediately after that, Keeleen told Evgeny to go rest, because this took a lot of energy. When Keeleen went out the door, Evgeny returned to the street of the public area. He followed Svetoslav closely to find an opportunity. At the crucial moment, Evgeny was pulled back by a hand. Keeleen warned Evgeny not to act rashly with the police car parked in front of the apartment building. Moreover, the car and the supervisor were also on patrol 24 hours a day. As soon as Evgeny heard about the supervisor, he said with hatred hatred that it must be because Irina was about to die, so she wanted to take him with her before she died. When he learned that the supervisor was terminally ill, Helene came up with a new plan. In the police station, Ivan deliberately showed Nikita his bite mark. He lied that he had also served Nikita's previous and future master, but when it was Ivan's turn to transform, there was no sign of his master. Nikita told Ivan to wait patiently, his master would definitely appear. Nikita's answer indeed confirmed Ivan's guess. Svetoslav went to Irina himself and said that a vampire had appeared in her place, and that person was the real mastermind. However, Irina said that he was trying to scare, which was definitely buying time for Evgeny to escape. For the time being, Svetoslav had no evidence and could only leave sadly. But as soon as he left, Helene came out of Irina's room. In addition, he quickly went to find Irina first and promised to give her immortality. But the first condition was that she had to help him catch the whole Svetoslav family. Evgeny on this side called the police to report that the supervisor's car was breaking the law. When the police checked this person's car, Evgeny took advantage of the chaos to enter Svetoslav's apartment building. But when Svetoslav saw him, he was very surprised. The two hugged each other. It turned out that before bringing Evgeny to the yard to deal with it that night, Svetoslav had arranged everything for him. The reason the two of them acted out this drama was to buy time for everyone. Unexpectedly, Evgeny happened to meet Helene. That year, his girlfriend was killing and sucking blood everywhere. In the end, Svetoslav caught her and executed her. Helene, holding a grudge in his heart, went to Svetoslav to take revenge. Finally, Svetoslav sealed and buried him underground. Evgeny thought that he had won Helene's trust, so he decided to cooperate with everyone to capture Helene. At this time, Evgeny only needed to turn on the GPS tracking device, and Svetoslav's group would immediately know his location. But at this time, the supervisor was outside the door, so how to get Evgeny to leave the apartment was also a difficult problem. John took out a bag and told Evgeny to get in it. After they worked together to pack, they asked the neighbors to help pull the luggage out. But when Evgeny got out of the luggage, he scared the homeless man next to him. Seeing the location on the screen start to display, Svetoslav immediately called the supervisor to say that they had found the real culprit. Soon after, everyone arrived at Helene's building. He cleverly realized that he had been betrayed, so he knocked Evgeny to the ground. Evgeny knew that he was unlikely to be safe, so he used all his remaining strength to throw the GPS into Helene's pocket. When Svetoslav and the others rushed to the place, he was nowhere to be seen. But at this time, the supervisor had already restrained Evgeny. Not giving them time to explain, Anna and Jean, who were standing by, bared their fangs and wanted to rush forward, but were stopped by Svetoslav. He asked why Irina did that, but she only said that she did as he said. After returning home, Svetoslav was both angry and regretful. The next day, he went to find Irina again and explained the whole story to her, but Irina still looked like she didn't believe him. At this moment, Ivan suddenly barged in with his identity papers in hand. He blamed Irina for taking the lives of others. According to the law of the country, Irina would face 10 years in prison. Hearing that, Irina couldn't help but laugh. With her current physical condition, it was feared that she would have difficulty holding out until the trial. Seeing this, Svetoslav immediately pulled Ivan out. Svetoslav scolded that Ivan's behavior was really too dangerous. After all, humans couldn't know about things related to vampires. But in Irina's eyes, revealing the existence of vampires to humans was also against the law. So she decided to punish the entire Svetoslav family and agreed to make a deal with Helene. At night, Svetoslav came to Irina again and begged her not to pursue their family forever. He also said that he could help her turn into a vampire. Unexpectedly, Irina flatly refused. This made Svetoslav feel the danger, so he rushed back to the apartment to inform everyone to leave this place quickly. He was almost certain that Irina had cooperated with Helene. This was extremely dangerous for the family. The four hugged each other as a farewell and then left their phones behind to avoid being tracked. Svetoslav said that this time they parted ways and didn't know when they would meet again, but he wanted them to remember that they would always be family and that they would meet again one day. After sending the three people away, Svetoslav discovered that Evgeny's tracking device was moving, so he found Helene thanks to the tracking. But at this time, Helene was very calm and said that Svetoslav's family could not escape. Helene contacted the guard to capture them and was on the way here. This action completely angered Svetoslav, so he transformed again. But before he could attack, Helene controlled the electric wire to shock him to the ground. When Svetoslav woke up again, the four people in the family were locked in a cage one by one. To let Svetoslav feel the pain of losing a loved one, Helene decided to kill him last. Helene had to make him witness each of his loved ones die in front of him. Helene also said that humans are inherently inferior creatures. That year, no matter how many people Helene's wife killed, she should not be executed. The vampire's ability is a natural gift, but Svetoslav was so stupid that he was restrained by these lowly humans. Moreover, humans even went against their beliefs to live a little longer. Svetoslav said that he did not see them as lowly. They made the world colorful, he loved them, and wanted to try to be a human. And he believed that good people always outnumbered bad people. Svetoslav's words also completely awakened Irina. Compared to a miserable eternal life, she would rather die with a conscience, so Irina ordered her subordinates to attack Helene. But these ordinary people were obviously not his opponents. Just when he was about to kill Irina's son, Ivan arrived in time. Ivan shot Keeleen several times, but it had no effect. Instead, he was easily knocked to the ground by Keeleen. Then Keeleen picked up the axe to finish them off. At this time, Irina held the IV stand and pushed him out the window with all her strength. Keeleen fell to the ground, impaled by the iron bar, but he recovered his memory very quickly. Seeing that Keeleen was about to stand up again, Sergei drove over and stepped on the gas pedal, hitting him against the wall. But Sergei still couldn't make him lose his ability to move. Sergei stepped on the gas pedal to fight back. Just as the two were struggling, Ivan fired a gun and shot the gas tank cap. The fire immediately flared up strongly. Keeleen was engulfed in flames and fell to the ground. Ivan picked up the axe, and when Sviatoslav signaled, they finally killed Keeleen. At the end of the story, Irina died of illness, and her son became the new guardian who continued to protect the balance between humans and vampires. The Sviatoslav family was reunited, each welcoming a new life. It would have been great if Evgeny had survived. Above is the entire content of the movie. Thank you for your attention, goodbye, and see you again.